Welcome back into inning number 5 of Clearing the Bases, where we will correlate our hot takes to the questions asked, but they won't necessarily be as hot as the seat Alex Cora was apparently sitting on. I'm Nick from Rounding Third Baseball. We got everyone back. We got the whole crew together. We got Chris from MLB Talk. How are we doing tonight, Chris?
Very good, man. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. We got Rob also from MLB Talk.
How you doing? How's everybody doing tonight?
Fantastic. Well, I guess I'm speaking for everybody else. So, Lorenzo from Big League Takes, how are we doing tonight?
Doing great, guys. Matt, the storylines in baseball are getting spicy now. It's in full swing.
Gotta love it. And Jason from Romantic About Baseball, how are you tonight, Jason?
Doing good, guys. Good to be back for our 5th episode now? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's flying. So much fun.
I'm by.
All right. Let's get into how it works. I will present a question for each round. Panelists will give their takes. I will award points to whoever I feel like. And multiple panelists can score points on the same question. What earns points is strong arguments, unique perspectives, and conviction of your take. So maybe not necessarily agree with your take, but just the conviction of which you present it. Wins carry over from each episode, and the winner will get the Diamond King of the Week, which is a nice little baseball card that Lorenzo put together at the end. It's pretty cool. Most points at the end of the season will be crowned the season 1 champion. And we got some pretty cool things in this episode that we're just adding every week. So it's really becoming pretty awesome to put together. So, all right. This is our today's lineup. We have injury impacts on first base, potential trade bait, second base, and set ablaze, which I'm sure y'all can kind of think what we're going to be doing there for third base. All right. First base, injury impacts. With today's epidemic of Tommy John surgeries, is it better to build starting rotation depth or bullpen depth? Starting at the top with Chris.
For me, it's always going to be the starting rotation depth. I remember on a telecast, the Yankee telecast years ago, David Cohn had mentioned you should start the season with 10 starters. In your 40 man, basically, right? 5 obviously up top, and then maybe 5 more down in AAA. To me, I think that strengthens the bullpen by having a strong rotation because you're putting less pressure on the bullpen as well. And to be honest, it's much easier to go out and find yourself another arm for the bullpen, right? You're not going to find a top-level starter as easy as you're going to find a rotation piece down the line at some point during the season, at the deadline, whenever you need it. So for me, it's always going to be the rotation, and you can always find yourself a guy who could come in and throw you an inning or two out of the bullpen.
All right, Rob?
See, I'm going to go a different way because I figured everyone's probably going to say starting pitching. So I'm going to say bullpen depth because starting pitchers are only going 5 to 6 innings now. So although starting pitching depth is very, very important, bullpen depth has become so much more important than it has in today's game. They can become spot starters, inning eaters, and when there's use an opener, they could open the game, and of course a bullpen game. So I'm gonna switch it up a little, and I'm gonna say bullpen depth.
All right, Lorenzo.
Yeah, I'm going to side with Chris on this one and say it's the starters. We still need to get 27 outs. I know the last 6 or 9 outs of the game have the most impact, or because that's you're closing out the games, those are the most intense moments. But you still got to get 27, so you still got to get those first 21. First 24. And to Chris's point, starters, if we build that depth, you're going to need 8 to 10 to last the season. You can't only rely on 5. You need the 8 to 10. And then in the postseason, so if I have 8 to 10 and I get into the postseason, I'm only going to need 3 in the postseason. I could kick those guys, and you've seen it in the last few postseasons. You've kicked the 4, 5, 6 started in your rotation to the bullpen, and now those guys are the bullpen aces, not your closer that you had 2 months ago. You're relying on Roki Sasaki to go get those outs. You're relying on Patrick Corbin a few years ago to go get those outs in important moments at the back end of the bullpen. That's why I think it's the starters that matter more.
All right, Jason.
Everybody has great answers because the answer is both. you got to have strong starting rotation depth to survive a 162 game season. And speaking as a Braves fan who suffered through the last 2 years, watching starting pitcher after starting pitcher go down with an injury, you have to have 7, 8, or 9 decent starters to eat up those innings to survive. But then once you get to the postseason, we've seen it repeatedly recently, you got to have a good bullpen to survive the postseason. Games get tighter, starters don't last as long. You got to have a strong bullpen to bridge that gap between the starter and your closers. And I'll go back to my Braves again. 2021, that was a middling bullpen the Braves survived the 162 with. They had strong starting pitching, got them to the postseason. Postseason pitchers start getting hurt. Charlie Morton goes out game 1 of the World Series that year. They basically had Max Fried and their bullpen, and they beat Houston and won the World Series because of that bullpen. So to me, it's the answer's got to be both. And even just in general, you just have to have pitching depth. Look at Yamamoto last year for the Dodgers. He's kind of that fill-in guy. And even back to the Madison Bumgarner days, he could start and then he would come in and finish it if he had to in the postseason. You just got to have pitching depth, period.
Yeah, great points all across the board. 5 points apiece to everybody. Great points. Rob, your point about the spot starters, right? Those guys in the bullpen that can come up and fill that lack of depth in the rotation, I think is very important sometimes. And we see that a lot now. And the thing with starters is like what you guys said was, 80 pitches and we're still not even out of the 4th most nights, which is crazy now. It's just completely different. And then Lorenzo, your point about like flexing it to the postseason, right? I mean, starting rotations get shorter in the postseason. It's just what it is. Everyone's on 3 days rest and you kick those guys to the bullpen and it does make you deep. So if you already have a deep bullpen and then you're adding 2 or 3 top of the line starters to that bullpen, it definitely helps you out. So great points to everybody there. And yeah, depth all around, especially you just don't know when somebody's elbow is going to go to the backstop. So great points. All right. Second question of first base. Which player currently on the IL makes the biggest impact when they return from their injury? Starting with Rob.
I'm going to go with a Yankee, Garrett Cole, because he comes back and he pitches like the Cole of 2023. Forget about it. The Yankees are going to run away with that division. Sorry, Nick. The Red Sox are done. We thought that division was going to be a lot closer. Right now, it just looks like Yankees. So I think if Garrett Cole comes back and he pitches like he did the year he won the Cy Young, the Yankees are really going to have it made.
Yep, no hurt feelings here. Our season was over with the first pitch of the season, so that's fine. Lorenzo.
Yeah, for me, it's Hunter Green. So a little different than Garrett Cole because the Yankees already have a top-tier rotation this year before Garrett Cole's even back. They're number 1 in ERA, they're number 1 in WHIP, number 1 hits per 9. Now, on the flip side, when you look at Hunter Green and the Reds, who are leading the NL Central, and you got luck involved, the Pythagorean theorem, it has them a lot worse than they are currently. They are currently 15th or bottom 10 in ERA, WHIP, hits per 9, and walks from their starters in the Reds organization. You're going to have a guy like Hunter Green, who is a frontline arm. He does have elite velocity, does have elite swing and miss. The guy just takes over games, helps that bullpen out a lot because you go deep in games. You're looking at right now, the Reds have Rhett Lauder and Chase Burns are their top 2 pitchers. Those are young kids. You need that reliable veteran, even though Hunter Green is still really young. He's been in the show a few years. You need him to lead that team. Help Hunter Green, help Rhett Lauder, help Chase Burns when they struggle this year. So I like Hunter Green. I think he's going to be the biggest impact.
Okay, minus 5 points for bringing the Pythagorean theorem into a baseball show. But Jason.
Nobody told me there was going to be math, Lorenzo. You got to back down on that. Yeah, similar to Lorenzo, I'm going with a pitcher here. Then I'm going a little bit off the board probably, but I'm going with Nick Pivetta for the Padres. The Padres are already off to a better start than I think most people thought they would be. And so just a chance to add some more starting pitching depth when Pivetta returns. Second half of last year, Nick Pivetta had a 2.86 ERA with 68 Ks and only 21 walks. So he's going to add some depth to that pitching staff for a team that's already playing pretty good baseball and has to compete with the Dodgers in that West Division. So I think Pivetta brings some more pitching depth that's going to help. Joe Musgrove's coming back too, so the Padres could have more pitching down the stretch.
Great ones. Chris?
My guy is Jackson Chourio for the Brewers. Listen, they're in 4th place right now, 3.5 out of first place. You add a guy like him, last year he went 2020. The kid's only 21 years old. You bring him back now, he's 22, a little bit more mature. This guy's only going to get better, right, as he ages. He's not even into his prime yet, so he's only going to get better. But if you add him to this lineup and you're starting like guys like Lockridge and Mitchell, a little bit less, and now you're getting Churio into this lineup, stealing bases, hitting home runs, that changes that lineup just a little bit more and just makes it that much better. I know Yelich is out as well, and Andrew Vaughn. So if you get Churio back, I think he's a big piece in that lineup, and that central is going to start to kind of, the cream is going to start to rise to the top, and the Brewers will start to move up.
Yeah, that's a great one. All four are great. I'm gonna go. Well, mine would be Carlos Rodon, to be completely honest. Listen, when Garrett Cole comes back, we know what Garrett Cole is going to be, right? And then you pair him with Max Fried. If Carlos Rodon comes back and is any shape of what he was last year, it's over, right? Just to Rob's point, it's over. So for me, it's Carlos Rodon is kind of that flex piece for me, because I know what Garrett Cole is going to be when he comes back, and it's not going to be fair again. And when Garrett Crochet comes back from his whiplash IL stint, maybe he'll help the Red Sox, but I doubt it. But all right, points. I'm going to go to Lorenzo. I thought Hunter Green is definitely the one there for me that kind of rises above everybody else. The Reds, we know the Red story. They made the playoffs last year, but Hunter Green could put them over the edge. The only worry I have about Hunter Green is he might be coming back too late. And if he has any setbacks, then we're not going to see him until August. And will that be too late for the Reds? I'm not sure. But I think that's a big flex for the Reds here. So
we have a first base comment here, Nick.
On David Cohn's theory, 10 starters on the 40-man would be 6 up on the MLB team and 4 in AAA. The 6th starter is a long man out of the bullpen. Yep. 1,000%.
Makes sense.
All right. The last question, we're going to kind of flip it a little bit here. So last question of first base. Which player of a competitive team, so take competitive team as you will, is one injury away from turning their season into a downward spiral? Starting with Lorenzo.
Yeah, for me, it's Tarek Skubal on the 500 ball team Tigers. Right? You already look at the Tigers have 5 starters on the IL already. So if Skubal were to go down, he's a top 3 arm in the league. We all know he's an ace. He's one of the best guys out there. He's really fun to watch. But if he goes down, that Tigers team aren't really scoring enough. They only have a +7 run differential, and they're 4th best in the league in not allowing the runs. So it's going to be really tight on that team. And we know Skubal does so much more. He straightens the bullpen because he goes 7 innings, because he's able to go 8 innings. So I think if he goes down, that's going to be the biggest loss.
All right, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I got to go with my own team here. I think Chris Sale, and I don't think it's close. The Braves starting rotation depth is already challenged, and Chris Sale has, surprisingly enough, I'm sure the Red Sox fans, has been kind of the mainstay the last 3 seasons for the Braves at the top of that rotation. He did have an IL stint right before the postseason in 23, which they were 24, which the Braves were already done. And then last year he had a stint on the IL. But other than that, he's been out there. He's the key to that rotation. He goes out and, the Braves are in big trouble. There's nobody to replace him. And, they're hitting the ball well, but they have no depth in that rotation if Chris Sale goes out. So I'm going with Sale for the Braves.
All right, Chris.
My guy is Gunnar Henderson for the Orioles. Listen, I know they signed Alonso, but he's not the guy that's going to carry this team. It's going to be Gunnar Henderson, right? He's the guy that's going to lead this team if they get back into it and get back into the wild card hunt at least, or, maybe even a division, but I doubt that. But at least if they get into the wild card hunt, it's going to be Gunnar Henderson. If they lose him, they really got no shot because, like I said, with Alonso, he is not that guy anyway, but he hasn't been anywhere near what he was last season for the Mets, right? So, and he's not going to carry this team. It's going to be a guy like Gunnar Henderson. Last year, Gunnar didn't have a good year, and you see where they went, right? They went nowhere as a team. The previous year is when he had his good year, and they were in the playoffs. The year before, they won the division when he won the Rookie of the Year. And both of those years, he got MVP votes. 2024, He was 4th in MVP 2023, 8th in MVP. So he needs to have one of those type of years, and he's capable of it. And if he gets hurt, I think the Orioles got zero shot at a playoff spot this year.
All right, Rob.
I think it's Aaron Judge. I mean, batting 262, 12 home runs. His OPS is 1.037. His bat is so important to the Yankees lineup with Stanton out. If Judge gets injured, it totally changes that offense, I feel. It changes the way the opposing teams strategize. I'm pitching to the Yankees. And really, who's going to make up for that? Is Jazz going to make up for that? I don't know about that. So I'm going to go with Stanton because I think that definitely will change the Yankees lineup.
Yeah, you mean Judge, right?
I mean Judge. Yeah, Judge. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the same player, right? Stanton and
Yeah.
Judge, same player. One can open a bag of chips, the other can't. So
yeah, Judge got that.
yeah. I'm gonna give Jason the points there for a team that has been absolutely decimated with injuries since, let's say, 2022, right? Chris Sale is the anchor holding that down for sure. If he gets hurt, where do they go? Like, just to Jason's point, where does the bleeding stop? Because, I mean, they already had a gaping wound at the beginning of the season, and somehow the Braves are playing great baseballs. But if you lose Chris Sale, it's going to be even harder to climb up that hill. So, yes, 5 points to Jason. Love it. All right, before we move on to our second base questions, we got Chris with 5 points, Rob with 5 points, Lorenzo with 10, and Jason with 10 for all of you keeping score at home. So here we go. So trade bait, pretty easy question here. Who will be the biggest name bat, so position player, traded at the deadline? Jason.
Yeah, I think I may be going off the board a little bit on this one. I'm going to go with C.J. Abrams. Abrams has some defensive flaws, but he's 25 years old. He's got 3 years of control. That's huge. He's shown some 20-30 ability. He's improving his chase rates. It looks like they want to trade him. They will trade him as the Nationals are in the middle of another rebuild. Abrams would probably bring a pretty good return, especially with that 3 years of control and the high-end tools potential there. So I think CJ is going to get traded, and I think he may have be the biggest impact that does.
All right, Chris.
My guy, I don't think Rob's going to like this, but I'm going to say Bo Bichette of the Mets. Listen, he could opt out after this year, and if he doesn't, he does have 2 years left on his deal at $110 million over these next 2 years. That's a lot of money for that guy. And he would be crazy to opt out, but he would also be crazy to stay with the Mets as well. And if another team comes out and, gives the Mets a great offer to trade, I think, Bichette's going to be okay with getting rid of his no trade clause and moving on if he goes to a contending team, right? Because he doesn't want to be on a team that's going to lose. And who knows what's going to happen after this year? I really don't know what's going to happen with the Mets. They're kind of in the middle because they were built to win this year and obviously not. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the offseason. He may not approve of any of these changes. Who knows who he's going to have on his team next year. So I think Bichette is going to get rid of his no trade clause and okay a trade to a contending team who wants to take on it with the option of either him opting out so that team doesn't take on that money, or that he says, okay, yeah, I'll stick with you guys for 2 more years. Or maybe get an extension to kind of lessen the blow of those 2 years at $50-something million a year. Because he's not getting paid a lot this year. He's only getting paid like $13 million, $15 million for this season. So a team like, let's say the Brewers, right, would take that on because it's not a lot of money. And if he okays to opt out at the end of the year, he might, a team like the Brewers might take that chance to get that one more bat in their lineup.
Yeah, I think the opt-outs and opt-ins are awful scary going into the lockout. I think if you have money sitting on the table, me personally, I think I would opt in to make sure I'm getting paid top dollar because we don't know what's coming out of this lockout. But
it's true.
Rob.
Yeah, well, you know what? On this show, position is important because Chris, I also picked Bo Bichette
See,
of the Mets.
I thought
Yeah,
I was crazy.
no, I picked Bo Bichette too because of this, mostly the same reasons as you. With the opt outs, he'd be willing to give up that no trade clause, and also he's so attractive because of the way he played in the postseason last year. So that's another thing. But the contract with the opt outs, he can make a deal with whoever trades for him. So I picked the same one, Chris, Bo Bichette.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking, the New York guys picked a New York guy. Shocking. Lorenzo.
Yeah, for me, it's Stephen Kwan, and it's more about the timing than it is the talent. 'Cause if you guys are watching Stephen Kwan this year, does not look like himself. Right? We know he's had the wrist injuries. We know he has neck stiffness this year. The exit velo's down, and he's not an exit velo guy, but we know it just doesn't look like Stephen Kwan that we've watched the last 4 seasons playing. But his plate discipline's still there. He's still giving you plus defense. So, and you know that if he clicks, he's a high contact bat that is real change the lineup. And what players are looking for at the deadline, what teams are looking for at the deadline, is somebody that you could bounce in there. If I'm down a leadoff hitter, if Stephen Kwan clicks, I could bounce him in my leadoff spot. If he doesn't, well, I can still put him 7, 8, 9, provide me good defense out there. And then you got to remember who he plays for. He plays for the Guardians. He has a year and a half left of control, and we know the Guardians are not going to plan on signing him. So how can they get value out of him? That's the Guardians' plan, is how can we always generate value out of these guys? So this is the mark where they get the value out of it. A year and a half left to go. And I think it's just a perfect storm. Other teams are going to see that as attractive. His value dipped a little bit. He can still make my team good, and we know the Guardians are willing to trade. So can we give the Guardians 3 pitchers that are in single A and get Stephen Kwan in return? I think that's going to be the biggest name trade at this deadline. There's not many rentals out there. So just because he's more achievable or attainable, I think that's why.
Okay. Yeah, I think you all bring great names to the table. Bichette for me, I think is the one, right? The Mets are the Mets, and he has the friendly contract, I guess, if you will, right? You can get him on the cheap for those last 2 months. So I think it's Bichette. Your point about CJ Abrams, Jason, is perfect, right? I mean, look at what Juan Soto, they got rid of him. Like, are they going to want to pay top dollar for CJ Abrams? I doubt it. I really do. And Stephen Kwan's a name I never really even thought about, Lorenzo, but it makes sense. That's what happened with Andres Jimenez. They sent him to Toronto, kind of the same exact player, just in the same exact contract status. So all great ones. So I'll give you all 10 points for that. Great job, everyone. And we have a couple. Yeah, Nico says Byron Buxton could be moved. He has a no trade, but if he's healthy in July, that could change. The Twins are terrible. Yeah. Kwan was rumored last year at the deadline. That's a great point, Armin. Yep. He was. And with everything that was going on with the Guardians last year with Class A and all that stuff, we were like, okay, Guardians got to be in full sell mode, right? Like they got to. And then nothing happened. So does that happen again at this deadline? I don't know. I can never read the Cleveland Guardians at all. So
no.
Frank says for the Orioles, I feel it will be Taylor Ward that gets traded.
Yeah, he becomes a free agent after this year, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's a good one too. That adds a lot of thump to the middle of the lineup. All great ones. So great job. All right. So we're just going to change positions here. Who will be the biggest name arm, not Scooble, because, I mean, there's a lot of debate around him, dealt at the deadline? And we start with whose turn is it? Oh, I'm a horrible host. Okay, Rob, go.
Is it mine? Wait, is it mine?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it is mine. Okay. I'm going to go back to the Mets. Let's meet the Mets. And I'm going to say Freddie Peralta. Because, first of all, besides the postseason experience he had with the Brewers, top-tier starter, and this is his walk year. So it's very attractive. And if he's happy with the Mets, the Mets could try to sign him in the offseason if there's going to be another season. So I really think the pitcher would be Freddie Peralta.
Okay, Lorenzo.
For me, it's Joe Ryan, and it feels like this was being built last year, right? When the Twins had all their big fire sale, Joe Ryan stayed, but the Twins aren't good again. Joe Ryan is on contract for a year and a half. So that is something that other teams will overpay right now. So we know that the Twins had really comfortable last year, going to do it again, probably sell it. The value's there. Joe Ryan is an ace on a majority of teams. And on almost every team, he's the best number 2 you're ever going to have. So I think teams are going to overpay. He's the type of pitcher that everybody wants at the deadline. I know not many big-name pitchers get dealt at the deadline, but he's my guy. The Twins are below 500 already. He's going to be the one moved.
All right, Jason.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Logan Gilbert. I know that may be off the board again, but Gilbert reaches free agency after 2027. But the Mariners have something that we just talked about that everybody envies, and that's some starting pitching depth. Emerson Hancock has come along and shown himself to be a pretty good starter so far for Seattle. Seattle's scuffling right now. They could still get Bryce Miller back, by the way. They've got a prospect in Cade Anderson who can contribute. Looks like this year he's dominating in the minors. So they've got that depth. They're scuffling. If they continue to scuffle, I think this becomes more likely. But even if they kind of get themselves back into it and they stay in it, with that kind of depth of pitching and their offense always being the thing that seems to hold them back from getting over the hump to get to that first ever World Series, I could see them using that depth, moving Logan Gilbert and picking up another bat, an impact bat that might put them over the hump and finally put the Seattle Mariners into the World Series.
All right, Chris.
All right. Well, you guys used two of my. I wrote down three names, and Joe Ryan was one. Peralta was two. Another guy I wrote down, so I'm going to use my third guy, Brendan Woodruff of the Brewers. He was offered the qualifying offer this year. He took it. So the Brewers can't use that again, right? Next off season. So he's going to become a free agent. And I doubt the Brewers are going to pay, pay for him. He's 33 years old right now. The Brewers are always looking to trade guys before they become free agents anyway. I think they got some pretty good pitching there. Obviously they got, the Miz there, up top. So I think the Brewers are going to trade Woodruff and get something now before they lose him for nothing.
Yeah, I'm with Jason and Chris on this. So 10 points for you guys. Jason, your point about Logan Gilbert is the Mariners have to do something, right? The offense is non-existent, and you have plenty of depth there. You would get back a major league ready bat if you trade Logan Gilbert at the deadline, 1,000%. So I'm with you there. Brandon Woodruff is an interesting one, Chris. Never really thought about it until you said it, but I don't think the Brewers are going to be necessarily at the top. They could be at a position to trade. And he's injury prone. If you can get him at the peak, right, and trade him, you could get some decent value back for Woodruff and get some talent back there in Milwaukee. Not that they don't have talent, but maybe something to put them over the edge so they can at least get past one playoff series. Maybe
we got
sometime. Yeah. Armin says Clay Holmes will be traded at the deadline. He's a player option for 2027. His value will be pretty high. Yeah. So awesome. All right. So going into third base, we have got Chris with 20, Rob with 10, Lorenzo with 20, Jason with 30. And third base is pretty cool. It's set ablaze, and we have a cameo to address the question. So let's take a listen.
My name is Mickey Callaway, and I was fortunate enough to get to pitch, be a pitching coach, and manage in the major leagues. Third base set ablaze. What is the most surprising firing in MLB history?
Thank you, Mickey Callaway, for our last question, and we'll kick it off with Lorenzo.
Yeah, I'll go with Joe Girardi and his first manager stint that he had with the Florida Marlins at the time. And this one probably still doesn't make sense to this day. It was his first year managing. He wins Manager of the Year, and Jeffrey Loria fires him. That's shocking. It wasn't because of team performance. It started because Joe Girardi told Jeffrey Loria to stop yelling at the umpires behind home plate. He said, hey, let these guys do their job. Let me handle that. You be a fan. Enjoy the team. And because of that rift, Loria did not like Girardi and fired him at the end of the season. this guy, manager of the year, when you look at what Girardi did the next 10 years of his career, he is one of the most respected managers probably the last 2 decades. He goes on, takes over the Yankees job, a perennial playoff team, wins a World Series. So it's just so crazy that this wasn't a baseball decision. It was just Jeffrey Lurier's ego that cost Joe Girardi and the Marlins from being a perfect match for a decade plus. So I think Joe Girardi.
Love it. Jason.
The least surprising thing is it was Jeff Lurie's ego. I'll tell a story, guys. I know you guys know this story. Most people probably do. May 11th, 1977, Atlanta Braves manager Dave Bristol is fired by owner Ted Turner. He says it's a 2-week firing. Go home to North Carolina. And that night, Ted Turner becomes the manager of the Atlanta Braves for 1 game. The Braves lose 2-1 to the Giants. And the NL commissioner the next day says, the NL president says the next day, we can't do that anymore, Ted. And he actually brings Dave Bristol back to finish the season. Bristol was 8-21. The Braves were 8-21 when the firing happened. He brings Bristol back after the 1 game. Bristol finishes the season terribly and is fired again. So the surprising part, take your pick. He was fired to begin with. The owner takes over as manager. He's brought back and he's fired again. A great baseball story from the 1970s. I'm going with Ted Turner becoming manager for a day.
Love it. It's a classic. Chris.
I got Dick Hauser getting fired by the Yankees after the 1980 season. His first season full-time as the manager for the Yankees. They win 103 games, win the East. They go to the playoffs and lose because there was no division series. They lose to the Royals. They get swept in 1980 by the Royals. And then he's fired after that year. He's hired by the Royals, obviously, the following season, makes the playoffs with the Royals, and then obviously a few years later ends up winning the World Series with those Kansas City Royals. So that's my shocker.
All right, Rob.
Just before I say mine, I want to thank Mickey for doing that for us. And also, Mickey Callaway is one of the few managers who actually had a winning record managing the Mets. So, that's a very tight class there. And not a lot of
unicorn. Like a
unicorn.
Yeah,
put him in the Mets Hall of Fame for that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, that makes him the only Mets manager with a winning record. So.
Wow.
That's pretty great.
Okay. All right, but mine is from 1964, guys. Yogi Berra being fired by the Yankees after losing the World Series to the Cardinals in 7 games. And the reason he got fired was there was something called the Phil Lintz harmonica incident on the bus. Okay, he was playing after a loss. The Yankees lost 4 games in a row. He was playing Mary Had a Little Lamb on a harmonica and the team bus. And Yogi got pissed and said to cut it out. But Mickey Mantle's, Lintz didn't hear what Yogi said, and he asked Mickey, and Mickey said, Yogi told you to play it louder. So he did that. Yogi got pissed. Lintz took the harmonica, threw it, and it hit Joe Pepitone, the Yankee first baseman. So the Yankee owners at that time felt that Yogi lost control of the team, and after the Yankees lost to the Cardinals, they fired him, and that caused a rift between Yogi Berra and the Yankees for a very long time. Yogi goes to the Mets, becomes a player coach, then a coach, then a manager for the Mets, and he didn't have anything to do with the Yankees for about over 10 years.
Yeah. I loved all those. I'm giving the points to the stories tonight. Those stories are absolutely incredible. So Rob at 20 points and Jason obviously with the Ted Turner one. That one's just an absolute MLB classic. So we're gonna go with that. And again, like Rob said, thank you to Mickey Callaway for help on the 3rd question because I've been stumbling tonight. So I love it. Thank you for the help. All right. So inning number 5 champion is Jason with 50 points. So any final words to cap off inning number 5, Jason?
Yeah, I just I have a gnat here. I just feel badly. We gotta treat Rob better, guys. The Mets, we got to be nice to Rob. Okay, the Yankees are playing well. The Braves are playing well. Let's take it easy on Rob a little bit. All right, and Nick, I know Red Sox too. We need to be kind to you, but
you don't have to be kind. Just we don't have to talk about them. They're irrelevant.
Right. I'm sure there's a lot of Red Sox fans asking why we didn't discuss Cora tonight, but I figure we've all beat that to death on our own shows this week.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, Rob, second place. Any final words out of you?
Yeah, it was as always. It's a lot of fun. I think this show, there's nothing like it out there, and on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, where we all are, as far as podcasts go. And I just want to make a quick note. We're going to have more guests asking that final question coming up. So you never know who we're going to get to ask that final question.
Yes, absolutely. Lorenzo, final words?
Come back next week, guys. It was a lot of fun.
Love it. And Chris, final words out of you.
Yeah, definitely. Come back next week. It'll be the 6th inning. Standings are starting to heat up here, or they are already heated up. So looking forward to the rest of this season.
Yeah, it's been an absolute blast. And, I say it every week, and Rob said it too. Like, there's nothing like this where we have baseball podcasts. We all do our separate thing, but we come together. We support each other. We're commenting on each other's podcasts and stuff. It's absolutely incredible. And we do this for the fans, right? We also bring the fans into the show too. And there's no other shows. I don't even think there's any other podcast, period, that do what we do. And it's absolutely incredible. So keep supporting us, and just like we support you guys. So you've been listening to Clearing the Bases. The bases are empty. There's no runners left, just bad takes that the ABS can't fix. And we'll see you in the top of the 6th inning next week, Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.